I am making Gojo in Roblox, and this is part 5 of my series. Let's just say I did not expect Hollow Purple to be this good. Anyways, I started off with taking the two VFX I had already made before. If you haven't seen those videos, then click up here for the full playlist. So, I started off by scaling the Lapse blue and reversal red, because the blue and red that spawn behind him are way bigger than the ones he holds in his hands. Then I separated them, like I separate myself from woman. Now, I needed the VFX to make the Lapse blue and the reversal red spawn in with an effect, rather than making them just pop out from thin air. So I started with stars, which shrank inwards. I did the same with some fog, and also decided to add some sparks. Next, I started with the wind VFX, cause Gojo has aura. Then, I took this cool screenshot. If you want to get that screenshot for yourself, join my Discord server. Now, I needed the fusion VFX. So, I tried to find a swirl effect, and found a decent one, which kinda looked like something that I've seen before. But then I found another one, which I then used. Then I started playing around with the lightning I needed for the fusion. After fiddling around with it and making a flashbang, I reached something that I liked. Then I tried making the water bubble effect, which was looking okay, but I wasn't sure if I was going to use it or not. I left it in just in case. Now I finally reached the stage where I have to make Hollow Purple itself. So I copied Lapse Blue and changed its color. And because the Hollow Purple looked just like Lapse Blue but in a different color rather than an actual fusion, I took a few elements from Reversal Red to make it look like blue and red actually fused together. Then I scaled it because 2 balls equals 1 big ball. Then adjusted the colors a little more and tried adding lightning flying off Hollow Purple, but gave up quickly since it looked kinda trash. Now I needed impact frames. So I started messing around with the color correction effects till I was satisfied. Now comes the most brutal yet the most important part: scripting. I started off with the default script structure we all know and love, but I started having problems with it. My own script started betraying me.
No! It can't be! No! No!
Turns out, my script did not join the dark side, but instead my negative brain cells forgot to turn off requires handle. Then we got to coding the usual. Blue spawning in, red spawning in, them coming together, purple fusion VFX, and then the bubbles. No matter how hard I tried, they just didn't want to look good, so I ditched the idea completely. Now I needed a cool light changing effect when they were fusing, cause as of now it looked boring. So I made the contrast go up, which looked good, but I would change it later. Then I started by adding the impact frames and making the Hollow Purple spawn in front of the player. Then I started by making the Hollow Purple by going forward. Let's just say it didn't want to go forwards. So I used run service instead of body velocity. Worked pretty well, but I did have some problems, which I fixed pretty quickly. And then after making it deal damage and cleaning everything up, after the projectile was fired, I called it a day and went to sleep. The next day when I woke up, I looked at some Roblox Hollow Purple VFX to get inspired. And a few things I was missing were screen color changing when Lapse Blue and Reversal Red are being summoned, the screen shake, the debris, the SFX, and the animations. So I started off by adding the screen color changing effect thing for blue and red, And this took like no time, and I wanted it to look clean, so I used tweens to make it fade in and out over a duration of 0.5 seconds. Precisely accurate, but I don't care. Then I added the screen shake to make the impact feel more impacted. Then I tried adding debris, which took way too long because Roblox physics doesn't really like the physics all the time, you know? Now, I need the SFX and I browsed the Roblox free assets. And I found absolutely nothing. So I decided to take things into my own hands and downloaded the Gojo Hollow Purple clip and started changing by cropping unnecessary people from the video. Then I imported the sound and started changing the timing accordingly. Now the only thing that was left were the animations. I hopped onto Blender and started animating, but stopped. I realized, if I start animating for Hollow Purple, I'll need to import a custom rig and change the player model. And I was way too tired to do that. So I saved the animations for another day. Lastly, I added some finishing touches, and this is the final product. Anyways, that's all for me. Till next time.
My goodness, I'm literally in creative. I stroke my pickle. Domain expansion, infinite diamonds.